that trade show saw that, and we got it on a discount, thinking that we were gonna buy more, and so
Okay. Oh, got it.
we got it.
If I can ask, what was the cost of that system?
$50,000.
$50,000. Okay. So, and you did not buy more?
At the time, we were and we actually still going through it. The market kind of dropped out from under us because locomotives were not moving much oil anymore and coal.
Okay.
So the volume, we went from 1,000 locomotives in 2011 down to 80 locomotives in 2017. So they were trying to save money anywhere they could. So it was a hard putt to try to get more.
Yeah. So, got it. Okay. So who said, and you talked about the, I think, was it the plant manager, the person who was worried about, how's this going to affect my bottom line? Who is it that makes the decision to lay out the $50,000 to purchase a machine like that?
Yeah, it's the plant manager. He's gonna be
for training.
The end all. But
he'll make that. Okay.
Yeah, before that happens, you know what he's gonna, and based on experience and how that business is ran, and probably similar to other businesses, is you know what he's gonna ask is, where am I gonna make my money up? I got to make it up, and I'm going to spend $50,000. I got to save $50,000 somewhere else, or be positive on that.
Okay. So let's see. We talked about. Do you have any direct reports? So you don't interact with the trainees yourself, but you're recommending when training needs to be changed and what the content of the training needs to be. Does that sound?
Yeah, that's correct. And I did have direct reports. They're all quality engineers, and the business at GE was so big that it was impossible for one person just to get the feedback. But each quality engineer had their one specific product or building, and they had metrics they had to hit. So it was in their benefit to look at the trends of the new employees as they came in, and recommend training for that, so they can hit their metrics at the end of the year for defect reduction.
Okay. So are there any other? It sounds like a lot of these could be related directly to these metrics. Could be tied to P&L. Were there any others that your plant managers wanted to see?
So time on product. So that's the number of planned hours versus actual hours.
Okay.
The scrap. So how much product did we throw out? So that's another metric. Number of NCRs or nonconformances. So we want to see a reduction in that. Rework hours. The number of rework hours to go down. So
okay.
If you found an improvement that hit all of those, that's a gold star for you, right? But
okay.
You have to see an improvement somewhere, but you gotta make it's all transfers to money, right? So if the rework hours is going to be reduced by X amount, that correlates to a burden rate, how much we pay our employees per hour, and then that better, if that's going to say I'm going to recoup my cost in a year, or I'm going to recoup my cost in 10 years. And if it's 10 years, he's going to look at you and say, why did you even come to me with this?
Okay, got it. Let's see. So have you encountered, with current training methods, is there anything outside of the classroom? It sounds like you've got classroom-led or instructor-led in the classroom and then some hands-on. Is there anything that is done that an employee might do on their own at home or elsewhere, or like in the break room or something like that? Okay.
We have what they call e-learning, but that's typically for policies and for procedures that they can read on their own. So there's work instructions that each building or each work cell will have, and we have them go over that on a computer, but we found that just reading it on a computer is not effective. It's better if you have the procedures right there while you're working on the product to really understand what it's trying to say.
Okay. Okay, so you want to have the product in front of you while you read procedures. So how is that taught then? Procedural stuff, is that taught in the classroom?
So if it's a product specific, it's not. It's out on the floor. So if we get away from welding, let's just talk about a general assembler. They'll go over the safes, how to be safe in the area. They'll go over general assembly training. So make sure widget A and widget B are torqued, and you're torque marking it, and you put Loctite on it and stuff like that. But then they go out with these work procedures and do on-the-job training. So they'll shadow an experienced employee for a week or 2 weeks, depending on the complexity of the work cell. And they'll have the procedures right there with them, with the seasoned employee, so they can answer any questions. And they build the product, and we also get feedback from that point as well. So if the new employee will go out with the work instructions, and the seasoned employee is telling them to do something different than the work instruction, and we get feedback from there to say, okay, do we need to update the work instruction, or does our seasoned employee is incorrect and we got an issue there? So,
or maybe they have a better way. Yeah, right. They might have a better way to do it. You need to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's interesting. So I'm wondering about. So we did want to talk to you some about technology like virtual reality, and it does sound like you have this machine that they're using for the welding folks is very similar to that idea. However, a VR system would be much less expensive and be more broadly applicable. To other kinds of, wouldn't just be exclusive to welding. You could show any number of interactions within VR. So I'm just curious, so if you could envision, like with some of these assemblies, like maybe the product or the system. So when I talk about VR, I'm talking about somebody putting on a headset that occludes the outside world, so they can't see anything else. They only see what's in the headset. And then they would have controllers in their hands, or perhaps they have something else that's integrated with the system, but that has the right feel of the tool that they would use. But it's integrated with the system such that they can get some haptic feedback from it, so they know when they're touching something or turning something and things like that. So the idea that the employee would be working on their own and receiving instructions, sort of like the on-the-job kind of procedural manual, perhaps, it's in their line of sight in VR. And meanwhile, in front of them, they have the product or the system or whatever it is that they would be interacting with, and maybe they're going through the steps, the procedure that way. And so they're working on their own, but they have sort of a guide along with them. What do you think about that?
That's great. I would think that obviously, the big hindrance to GE was the cost, the price tag on that. And you mentioned it would be a lot cheaper. But I think it would be great if you could do it where the product that they're seeing in the VR is going to be the product that they see on the floor. Right. I think that would be huge. And then what also would mean is that whoever buys this VR system would be able to update it with different products at any time. As a new product line comes on, and it's customizable, I guess, on the fly. That'd be key.
Right. I don't know how. So the idea is you could then, if you've got new products that need to be represented, that you could have them, render the parts in 3D. And chances are the people who already have the 3D assets in terms of like CAD models and things like that could be turned into VR. But I am curious about when you say on the fly. What is your idea of on the fly?
Well, that's what I mean. So, if you have the design group or the engineering group is always going to typically will always create a 3D model of whatever they're making. So,